All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Performance Analytics Reporting Office Hours. So we're glad you're able to join us for this session. We do this session every 2 weeks. And for those of you that are new, welcome. And for those of you who have joined us before, welcome back. I'm Adam Stout with the Performance Analytics and Reporting Business Unit with ServiceNow, an outbound product manager responsible for enablement and running these office hours. Before we get started, I'm going to run through a few logistical items for today's session. So the first thing, first and foremost, is this session is for you. It's your opportunity to get some ideas, see what's going on with performance analytics, and get some practical advice from the world's experts in the field. There will be cases where we can't delve into a specific technical issue that has to deal with your instance. And if that's the case, then we may ask you to open up a case on high, or we may follow up with you offline to answer your question. But we are trying to answer as many questions as possible, particularly on topics where we don't have to talk about your specific data. We have many people who are on the line, many of the experts. So so please keep yourself on mute unless you're asking a question, which we will open up for questions after our first presentation. Again, if you're not asking a question, please mute yourself. And also feel free to take advantage of the text chat if you prefer, rather than coming off mute. If you do ask something in the text chat, please address it to everyone rather than the speaker. There's lots of people on the call who might be able to help you, so please address that to everyone so we can get your question answered. We will try to answer them talking to them, but you also might get some messages back in the chat. Very important note, this session is being recorded. If you or your organization is not comfortable with that, please disconnect now. After the conclusion of this meeting, we'll post the session on YouTube for your reference. You'll see a link on the page where you registered for this, and you'll see all the previous office hours as well. And with that, today we're going to start with one of our product managers, Marta, who's going to talk to us about some of the new features, or one really cool feature that's coming out in New York, or is out in New York. And Marta, are you there?
I am.
All right, the floor is yours. I don't want to steal any thunder. I've been looking forward to this for years.
Perfect. So thank you, Adam. Everyone, I'm Marta Penso. I'm part of the inbound product managers for performance analytics and reporting based in Amsterdam. So I will share my screen and I will start with just a quick PowerPoint of the functionality, and then going into an instance and the demo. So today I will present a new feature that we have added in New York, that is the multi-element select for the breakdown dashboards. So for all Z-booted and upgraded customers with dashboards that have at least one breakdown source, the multi-element select will actually be active by default. So on upgrade, you will get the new dropdown with no extra configuration. So this, if instead you want to create a new dashboard and you just need to add a new breakdown source, and you will get the multi-element select available. So the multi-element select is only on dashboard level, so it will apply on all the tabs that are available in your dashboards, and it applies to both PA widgets and reports. To apply to reports, you also need to configure the act as filter options in the dashboard properties. How is configured the dropdown? So you're gonna see two tabs. One is all, so all the available elements and values, and also a tab for the selected. These are the ones that are currently selected and currently applied to your visuals in the dashboard. So after selecting multiple elements, it's necessary to always click on apply button. And there are other buttons like clear all, but also in this case, it needs to user needs to click apply to actually persist the action. We have added sorting, so it's now possible to sort the elements values and as well the button to actually simply close and the drop down, so the cancel button. We do respect the user preferences, and we do allow to reopen a dashboard when previously were selected some elements, and the elements will actually be persisted and available by default. As well as you can share the dashboards with already multiple elements selected to any other user. As well, we do respect element security. So if some elements are blacklisted or whitelisted, we will not be displayed, or only some will be displayed in the dashboard filter. As well as there is the show blank option. The show blank options definition is actually to allow or not allow to deselect all the elements. So to have a breakdown dashboard that is not actually as any element selected and as a whole. So it's kind of in an empty state where no elements are selected. And also in this case, we will respect the options that were set. So when selecting multiple elements, your visuals could refresh and display the data in two different ways. One is the aggregate view and another is the separate view. For the aggregate view, the values and the score that will actually be displayed will be based on the indicator aggregation. So for sum and count, then the value will show the sum of all the values of the selected elements. For max indicators, we will show the highest value from the selected elements, and for min indicators, we will show the lowest value. So for the time series widgets, we allow for the aggregated view to display the data labels, the forecast, and the forecast range. At the moment in New York, we do not support to create and display targets, threshold, and comments for an aggregate view on a time series widget. The separate view instead displays separate series on a chart, or like separate bars for each element that has been selected. So in the example over here, 2 elements were selected, and you can see that are 2 different lines. One is for priority moderate, and the second one for high. So we have added to indicate that actually visuals, a PA widget is following the breakdown elements. We have added the filter icon. So when the filter icon is displayed, it means that the PA widget is following or one or the multiple elements that have been selected. If the icon is not displayed, it might mean that in the PA widget form itself, the follow element is unchecked, or that the multi-element select is not supported for the indicator and visualization combination. And I will explain what do I mean with that in this slide. So currently in New York, we support the aggregate view for multiple type of indicators, but we do not support it for formula indicators and automated indicators with aggregation type average or count distinct. And also the multi-element support on the follow element support for the visualization is the time series widget visualization support the aggregate and the separate views. The list widget also support the aggregate and separate views. but both the score widget and the breakdown widget do only support the aggregate view. So if you place together a score widget with a formula indicator, at the moment we will not be able to refresh the chart and your PA widget when multiple elements have been selected. Also, the pivot, the workbench, and the text visualization do not support the multiple element selection. So we do still support the single selection of an element. So from the new drop-down, you can select only one element, and pivot, workbench, and text visualization will refresh and display the data accordingly. But if multiple elements are selected, we will not be able to display the scores for the multiple elements. So how to configure which type of view you want to see as a default. So for both list and time series widget, you do have the options for automated indicators to have the both options. So in case both options are available, a drop-down will be displayed after a follow element has been checked. If only one view is allowed, then there is not going to be a drop-down anymore, but it will actually just state if it's an aggregate or a separate view, and the field will be in a read-only state. And if the based on the combination of the indicator, aggregation type, and the visualization, if multiple element selection is not allowed, then we will display a not available state. And as a final, the redirection to the analytics hub. So nothing different when there is a separate view. So from each series, you will be redirected to the analytics hub with the specific element selected. But when in the visualization you have an aggregated view, you will be redirected on click on the analytics hub, but some functionality at the moment will be disabled. So as mentioned before, targets, thresholds, and comments are disabled for an aggregate view of multiple elements. The breakdown panel is also disabled, as well the compare tab and the on-the-fly time series aggregation. So I will do a small demo on an instance. So I have here a dashboard with some elements already selected. I can select a new one, click on apply, and the data will be refreshed. This is showing an aggregated score. And for example, over here, I have a separate view of my widget or my time series widget displaying the 3 elements that were selected. And in the breakdown widget, instead, this is already open incident by age. And as a second level, we are doing the incident priority. And in this case, also is an aggregated view. So if I click, and I will be redirected to the analytics hub, you can see that it's already on the second level. So I have age more than 90 days and priority in high, moderate, and critical. So I can still see the statistics as well as in the confidence, the trend, and the forecast. And also we can display the records that apply. So group by priority, then it will be the 3 priorities that were selected. On the editing, so case, if I edit the widget, so the follow element is checked. On unchecking, the options will be hidden. And on checking, I can also show it as aggregate. So I will give you the example as aggregate. So you can see now the 2 elements are selected, and now is displaying the aggregate view of the 2 elements selected, high and moderate. And that's it. So we'll stop there.
So we did get a few questions that came up, and so I just want to cover what's coming on. For those of you who are paying attention to the presentation, not looking in the chat, the questions that have come in can I choose breakdown elements from multiple breakdown sources at the same time? That's the first one.
So yes, in the dashboard, it's possible to have multiple breakdown sources.
But not at the same time, or can I do it at the same time?
No, it's always gonna be one at a time.
Okay, so it's one, you can select multiple elements, but they still are from the same source.
Exactly.
And to confirm, so for everybody, this is a new feature in New York.
Yes.
There's a feature in New York that is not available prior to that and will not be backported to prior to that.
And is also available only for responsive dashboards.
For responsive dashboards. And yes. When customers upgrade, is there anything special they need to do?
No extra configuration needed. And also all your widgets, so the list and the time series widget that support both views, so the aggregate and the separate, automatically will go to the separate view. So the default, it will be the separate view stored in the form. If you have any already PA widget that have follow element checked.
And to follow up on the question before, if you want, the question is, what if I want to see all the priority 1 issues with a specific assigned to individual? And for that, you'd have to have something that did a breakdown by priority 1s, or a widget for priority 1s where you would then, you could then break down by assigned to, but you would not be able to configure that on the fly like an interactive filter. You would have to set up your dashboard with that intent, and then you could select multiple assigned tos. There's a question we'll come back to about the records tab. The next question I have that came up with in New York with this release, or in a future release, is it planned to support element filters instead of checking the individual elements? Would I be able to select my team if I had an element filter for my team?
It's definitely a functionality that we want to introduce. It has not been done yet, but it's definitely in the plan for the future releases.
Okay, not in New York, but it's on the list.
Yeah.
Okay. The question, I believe, related to this about text analytics. Is there something specific for text analytics? Will text analytics work with this, with the multiple slides?
Text analytics in New York will work only with selecting one, will follow only one element, not the multiple element. There is nothing that can be like a workaround for that. At the moment, text analytics does not support the multi-element select.
And what about interactive filters? So in the past, I've always used interactive filters, or I've used breakdown sources to act as an interactive filter. Will this work? but it was limited to one at a time. Can I now have this act as an interactive filter that is a multi-select?
Yeah, absolutely.
And does that happen if my interactive filter is a single select? Will that work, or does my interactive filter need to be a multiple?
No, it works also if you're, is it a single select, your interactive filters.
Okay, great. So I certainly see there's a lot of value in this on the reporting side and interactive filters to get that one encompassing interactive filter to work on reports. And with targets, what will happen if I have a target? If I do a multi-select and my targets, and they're combined, will my targets apply or not apply?
No, the targets will not be visible in the visuals anymore, and they will not apply. So at the moment for the targets, you only can select one element and not multiple elements or the aggregated value of multiple elements.
Okay, so just be aware when you're using this with targets that there'll be some impact into that is what you're looking at. The next question I see, do we have a working example of a breakdown list using multi-element? Oh, on the list, on a list widget, breakdown list widget, what happens when I select multiple elements? Will that filter it? So if I had a widget that was multi-select, that was a breakdown on the same, breakdown on assignment group, and then I pick an 5 assignment groups from the top, will the breakdown list only show me those 5, or will it continue to show me the full list?
So it's on the same one. So you have already a breakdown widget with assignment group.
Yes.
Then no, it will actually not apply. At the moment, we do not, breakdown widgets do not filter out the elements if the breakdown that is configured in the widget form is the same as the one from the breakdown dashboard. So
which is the same behavior prior to this.
Yes, exactly. The behavior not changed.
Okay, and then we have a couple other questions on different topics. So if you have any questions about this new feature with multi-element select, please feel free to come off mute or put them in. Otherwise, we're going to move to answer some of these other questions. Marta, thank you very much. I appreciate the demo. Hopefully everybody else appreciates it, and I definitely appreciate the hard work you guys have put in to make this work and go through all the options and put in all the thought to make this work the best way you can. Okay, then we're going to answer a couple of other questions. So the first one that going back had to do with the records tab. Had to do with the Records tab and Analytics Hub. So will the Records tab show the exact number of records and the Analytics Hub score is displaying? Sometimes it's not. And the answer to that is sometimes it's not, and there's various reasons for this. So the most common reason is that I'm doing a count distinct. And if I'm doing a count distinct, the count is the distinct values, but the raw records are more than that. Same thing happens if I was doing a min or a max, I'd see more records. That's where I will see more records than the score. Other cases we'll run into is if the records have been deleted. It is possible that the records have been deleted, and in that case, you will see less records than what the score is. And whether it was physically deleted, a before query was removing it, or there's an ACL blocking it, you'll see those similar that similar behavior where it's not there, you don't see it. So they can be off for those various reasons. Outside of that, I don't know of why those numbers wouldn't match, but I think every time I've seen it, it's because there was an ACL blocking me from seeing it, or it's been deleted somehow, or again, it was a count distinct or a min or a max. If it's not that, I would open up a case on high to track down what's going on, but generally that's where we want to see it. When you're viewing the records, you're using a normal list view, and you're using all the existing ACLs, and those records do need to exist, even if you're going to see them. Okay, going through. There is a question about the safe PA dashboards that were just released. I haven't looked at them. I don't know if is anybody on the call. Can anybody speak to some of the content in the Agile dashboards that were just posted? If not, we will have to come back. You may want to post that in the community, and we can try and track down an answer, or we will hopefully get beef up some more knowledge on that and try and come back to that question next week, or sorry, in 2 weeks. Okay. Do we have an option to export the elements from a dashboard as Excel or Pivot? If you can add a little bit more detail to that question, do we have an option to export the elements? You can export the elements because they're just coming from a table somewhere, but I don't know what you want to see. The exporting from dashboards is generally limited to an image of it, with list views being able to do a list as well, and not much from PA, but again, it depends on what you're trying to get. There might be a good solution for that. Another question about naming convention for reports, and going through some numbers. We just posted last week, I believe, or last week or 2 weeks ago, some best practices for reporting in the community. I'd recommend going to look for that. We've gone through a lot of the best practices we talked to customers. We just wrote them all down for you as a reference. The list will continue to grow, but if you go into the Performance Analytics and Reporting forum in the community, you'll search for best practices reporting, and it will come up. I will talk a little bit about the naming conventions, and the suggestion is name it something that is meaningful. Don't give it a number, don't give it an abstract name, don't call it incidents, but actually talk about who wants to see it and what they're seeing from this, why I'm going to see it, who wants to see this and why. The same thing goes for dashboards and reports. PA widgets are always shown in context, so it's a little less, but indicators are the same thing. You don't want to have the word report or dashboard in something. Like incident dashboard could mean literally 100 different things. You want to talk about this is my incident backlog, my team's reopened incidents. What is it that you're trying to get from it for most reasons that's what I want to name the dashboard. That's what I want to name the report. So when people see it, they can understand what's going on. It's also good in reports to put in the description and put in as much metadata as you can. This role would want to see this to achieve this objective. That is talked about in a little bit more detail in those best practices if you go look that up, and we'll try and get a link added to the community here. Okay, moving on. And Isaac, if you want to talk and interrupt, we love to hear your voice. I know you're reading the comments. Oh, we don't like the echo though. Okay, good. Really good question came in about new conditioning.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is it better?
We can hear you now, yes. A question, is there one that you were ready to answer?
Yeah, I was reading the question from Frederick. I'm sorry, I had multiple issues. I couldn't hear very well. Yeah, the Frederick's question is, we used to have an indicator source where we were excluding, we actually have an indicator source where we exclude the state canceled, and because they upgraded from an older release, they do not have it. Of course, you should add it. There are two ways to do that, Frederick. One is by using, you can add it manually, or you can also use the history of the record, and you can revert to the version that came later on. So that is something that you can do as well, and then you will be in the same state as the out-of-the-box condition of the source.
And to add on to that, in the vast majority of the time, we do not upgrade indicator sources indicators when we make changes to them going forward in new upgrades, we don't touch what you're looking at. It never works out well if we do that, because you're used to seeing something, and if you've made changes, the upgrade would cause an issue. If we upgraded part of it but not all of it, that would be an issue. So it is always a good idea to take a look at the release notes for new and changed content packs, and then go take a look at those in a dev instance. Go take a look at those somewhere to see what we've changed, if it's been modified. But if it's been modified, you will want to apply that modification in a way that makes sense for you. It's unlike other plugins where we just upgrade functionality, upgrade business rules if you haven't changed them. It's up to you to understand, do I want this change? Does it change my metric? We cannot change how you define an indicator just because we upgrade, right? These are indicators for your business. You need to be in control of them. So we don't force upgrades for analytics. Okay. Isaac, did you finish or did I cut you off?
No, we are good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So I can continue if you want, or if you want to continue to you. So will a multi-dataset report be able to follow the interactive filter? Yes, the answer is pretty simple. Yes, because if your interactive filter uses a field and from a table that your multi-dataset report has, then it will limit the records based on that table. And moving forward, in regards to PA, what is a common use case for using indicator groups? In PA, we have a breakdown widget where you can actually select an indicator group, and then you will see all the values for a set of indicator groups in one widget. So for example, if you put all your indicators open, closed, or in the backlog, and you want to see all of them in one widget, you can create a breakdown widget and put there the indicator group. And by that, whenever you add a new indicator in the group, it will appear automatically in your widget. And this is an easy way for you to add multiple indicators just by grouping them. And moving forward from prevent, I've seen that I'm not able to use count distinct on all field types on a report. Any reason for this? I have done a workaround to update the sum field in the sys report table list view. Should this be avoided by any reason? If I remember correctly, we don't allow count distinct on string fields because it doesn't really make sense on actual string fields, not on choices. If I'm
like
not,
short description.
Short description, where it doesn't really, well, it wouldn't make sense, but there are some use cases, I suppose, that you might have, and that's why we don't allow count distinct on all field types.
I know we blocked grouping and stack by. I didn't think we blocked count distinct. If you want to post an example in the community, we can take a look at it, and we might test it out to see what the restriction is. But I think for this, I'd really want to see what the field type is, and what the table is, particularly if it's an out-of-the-box table. So this would be a great one if you could post it in the community with some screenshots. We can take a look at it, and then go from there. When we do block the group buys and the stack buys, it is because of performance concerns, and that it generally returns very little value for what you're looking for, or there's something misconfigured in your instance. I've seen that as well, where people have things that should be choice lists that they make strings. But again, if you post that in the community with some screenshots and some more details, we can take a look at that.
Okay, Frederick came back. So if it's the question related to the indicator source, that if they add a new condition now, what happens to the historic data? So if you just change your indicator source, nothing will happen to your pre-collected values. There are a couple of things you have to keep in mind. So there is, you could also collect historically, but then you have to be very careful with the breakdowns that are actually cannot be captured historically. For example, the state of the incident, which now will be closed, And the assignment group, which will always, because our collections run on the current data set as they are at the moment, running a historic collection job and using a breakdown that the value remains the same as it is now. So it won't really help you, and you will cause a bigger problem to you. You will have to exclude those breakdowns from your collection to make sure that you collect the value for the indicator and the breakdowns that it makes sense. And from that day onwards, of course, everything will follow the same conditions. But if you want to have your historical data following the conditions that you currently have, you will run a collection. Make sure that you exclude the breakdowns that cannot be collected historically. You can check out of the box. We have the assignment group and the state excluded from our historical data collection. So you have to do some similar configuration for any other breakdowns that you added.
And in some cases, I just see customers, if it's a minor change that's making it better, they'll just make the change, don't do a historical collection, and add a comment onto the Analytics Hub that said this number was redefined here, right? So it really depends on what change you're making and if it's meaningful and if it's really going to help you if you do a historical collection, or is it just something that's refining it? So some minor change that's specifically a go forward future change, like we're adding a new state for incidents and I want to exclude it or count it and it's not in my history, that would have no effect. It doesn't automatically do anything. It is, you need to decide what is best for you.
Moving forward, is a scheduled job mandatory for indicator to reflect the data on dashboard? Yes, well, we're talking about automated indicators. So every automated indicator, in order to collect the scores that we display on widgets, you have to run a collection job. So yes, you do need to collect for automated indicators, and then the values that are collected during collection will be presented in our widgets and in the dashboards where you added your widgets.
And the next question has to do with the number of rows removed by a security constraint when viewing records. The real question about that one comes to, is that right? What is the record really deleted? If you believe, or is it really being removed or deleted, or is there a domain issue blocking you? Again, the records tab is just doing a list view with the sysids that were captured. So if you're an admin, I'd expect that you'd be able to see that data. But if domain is blocked, if you're not an admin or you're not in the global domain and you can't see it, then we would see it blocked. The way you would see the data if it's removed is by having the access to see it. If you do have access to see the data, but it's still being blocked in the records tab, put a case in on high, and we would need to look at that. But generally, there actually is a valid reason why you're not allowed to see it. There's a reason in the system why you're not allowed to see it, which may or may not be valid, which you may have to change the domain you're in, or the ACLs on those records. What I often do would just be going, let's say if it was incidents, I just go to the incident list view and just see if anything's removed. Because generally a lot of stuff's removed or nothing's removed. So for whatever that indicator source is, just go look at that base table, see if things are removed for you or not removed. If you can see every record in that table, but yet the records tab is showing you removed by security constraint and deletion, and it's not something you delete, then put a case in high so that can be looked at.
Hey, Adam.
Yes.
I put that question in. So, and it's against the service availability table. So when I go to look at that table, I can see the records. There was one that I saw that I know for sure was deleted, but the others I could see. But when I go to Analytics Hub and click on Show Records, I'm not able to. I even impersonated someone else who's not an admin, and they're not able to see them either.
I would put a case in so that somebody's gonna have to look at track down the SysID and track down what happened.
Okay.
I mean, if what I would do is go look at the snapshots. I think it's easier if you put in a case, but if you look at the list view, you can see what SysID it's trying to pull, and go track down that SysID and see if it's in deleted records. See if the record's there. See if it's in deleted records. But really, we have to find out. Well, what was the one that we were looking for that's not there, and then understand what happened, right?
Okay.
And if it is there, there's something. I mean, something's going wrong, but you have to look and see what that SysID is and where that SysID went.
Okay, and then there was a mention about the ACLs that could be preventing.
Yeah, if you can see it in the list view, in a normal list view, and you can't see it in the records, that's not the ACL.
Oh, it's not, okay.
No. There's no different ACL. It uses the exact same ACLs. Generally, when I see this, the person can't see see it in the list view either. It's just clearer in the list view that performance analytics isn't involved. So it's from what I would do is put a case in so somebody can just take a look. It shouldn't take that long, but it would probably require somebody to look over your shoulder or to hop in the instance to track down what's going on.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, I think we've gone through the questions in chat. Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask in the chat, or come off mute and ask us? We still have 15 more minutes, and we're happy to answer your questions. And if not, that's okay too. I want to. Oh, yep.
Yeah, one question for Jason, if you're still online, regarding your question for the SAFE dashboard. Yes, we are looking into that use case, and right now the only workaround we can offer is to name the sprints differently. So you'd have to update the script that populates the name of the sprints. So that's the short-term workaround from the app team. I just got in touch with the app team who delivered the dashboard, and that's what I got from them. So, but yeah, that's definitely being looked at, and hopefully it will be addressed in the future releases.
And we have another question about how would you create a widget that will show incidents that are about to breach SLA? That depends. Common ask, and it depends what time frame you're looking for. So with PA, you certainly could do it by reporting on the task SLA or incident SLA view. I'm assuming we are talking about incidents. You can also run a report. Give me everything that is above 80% SLA breach, with the percentages, or what's consumed 80% of my SLA, or what will breach within the next 4 hours. So that's something that you should be able to create a report on for real-time information. Or if you're looking at SLAs that are a little bit longer, you want to know how many SLAs are going to breach tomorrow, or how many are coming up. An indicator could be configured on that. I believe I've seen some things that weren't necessarily what's going to breach, but what's consumed. I want to bucket by percentage of SLA consumed. So I might have 4 or 5 buckets and take a look at what's in my backlog. Where am I at in my SLAs, right? Am I generally halfway in my SLAs, or am I always up in the red line and most of my incidents complete with 10% or less left in the SLA? That'd be something that might be concerning to me. But in the same token, if I'm looking at a weekly, a monthly indicator that shows me I get 90% of my SLAs done in the first 10% of the SLA's time, then I need to tune up my SLAs, right? I can be better. I can deliver better. So really interesting information that's kept in task SLA, exposed in the incident SLA view to help you tune SLAs. Right, so that's I think one of the best things we get out of performance analytics is it's not just a report, but it's going to help you improve what you're doing, improve your process. The main drive that we're looking for.
Hey Adam, yes. Some of the leads we're looking for just to be able to watch the incidents, right? Just to see what's coming up that's about to breach, so that they can tell their agents, hey, follow up on this because it's about to breach.
Right, before getting your exactly
before
right.
Like,
yeah, I would just do a report on incident SLA.
Okay.
Whether looking at the due date or looking at the percentage complete, right? And it depends kind of how your SLAs are. Your SLAs in hours, or are they in days? And again, anything that's in 80% or more, I'd probably want to see. But 80% might mean you have 20 more minutes, or it might mean you have 2 more weeks.
Right. Okay.
But I believe its breach date is when it's expected to breach. That can change because something can be in pause, right?
Right.
But the percentage used is there. There's time remaining. And I'm sorry, I'm going from memory on what's an incident, what's in task SLA, but I believe you have time remaining, the percentage used, and I think there's a date.
Okay.
So I think a report on that would give you that list of take care of this stuff.
Okay, excellent.
Right.
Can I just ask 2 more questions?
Sure.
I'm sorry. So the assignment group metrics, and maybe there's another metric, but I have someone looking to find out, so they get this incident assigned to them. They want to know what group, they want to be able to track what groups had it before them.
Right.
Is there something that we have out there that'll show this group had it before it was assigned to the new group?
Sure. So the things that I go for that are the metrics timeline. Particularly assignment groups already metrics. So if you expose the metrics timeline, which is do you know what I'm talking about? I can bring it up real quick.
Yeah, if you can bring it up.
Well, I can bring it up. Let's see if I can do it real quick. If I can talk and type at the same time. Explicitly bad at. Okay. I'm going into my instance. Let me share. We don't do enough sharing.
Yes, let's share.
Is that normal size now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I got a big monitor, and now when I share, it never looks good. Okay, we're going in incidents. Hopefully this had some action on it. Yeah, so not everybody will see this, and I don't recall where this comes in, but a normal ITIL should see it. I think a customer wouldn't. But the metrics timeline is going to show me absolutely nothing interesting on this one. Let me find something better.
Yeah, I don't get names correct. I don't know how they, I don't even know where they get the stat.
Well, the metrics timeline will show you the metrics that are there. This is the assigned to duration. Let me see.
Okay.
This is my instance that I play around with, so it's broken a lot. Let's see. I'm going to change to database.
It's managed by supported by Kudo and Perdo. Duck. So they control it. Right? And so there's
okay, so hopefully this should have fired my incidents or fired my metrics. We're going to go my timeline.
And you have the power to go in and request EMR access, right? Which gives you administrative access to get those. Okay, that's the short. Then there's an EMR admin process, which is a separate utility that each manager has access to for the apps that are under.
Okay, so now I did the assigned to. I don't know what was wrong with before that. All right, so here what I see is that it was assigned to Bo, and then it got assigned to Dawn, and that's who it's assigned to now. So this would give me the time scale about anything I have metrics for, what's going on. And I bet when you were specifically asking about the assignment group.
Right.
There is a setting in the metrics, and I'm going to go. I do not know if this was out of box or not, but I'm going to take a look at incident, assignment group. So this is set to false on my instance. I'm going to set it to true.
This is not a
which is, should I show this on the timeline? Metrics. Metrics are not always shown on the timeline. You choose whether or not I want to see them. And now if I go back to, I'm going to go back to this instance, sorry, to this incident and click on metrics timeline.
I would just send it back and I would say.
And now I'll see assignment group here as well.
Oh, excellent.
Right, so, I mean, this is what this is explicitly for. Again, I have to click on it, but it's nice to see that timeline and you can zoom in and zoom out and see what's going on.
Right.
Alternatively, what I've seen people do, I mean, it should be in your activities. If not, that could be configured to see it there. That's not ideal, but it's there. And then I've seen people add a related list with metrics. You might have to define a relationship for that, but you can have a related list of metrics. So they can just see everything that's going on. And then the third option that you have is, you might want to look at, is the breakdown SLAs, or SLA breakdowns, which not just who had it, but how much time was consumed. So for this SLA, I am 9,000% over my elapsed time. I want to know who had it. Like if a common problem is, well, this SLA breached and it's owned by Database San Diego, so Database San Diego is not doing a good job, right? That's the simple answer. With SLA breakdowns, it actually tracks the assigned twos and the assignment groups inside of each SLA. So if I saw that this has gone for 160 days, what I might see is that 158 of the days were Database Atlanta. They changed it to Database San Diego, and Database San Diego resolved it. That's really interesting when if you have a focus on SLAs, which is good to have, then the SLA breakdowns are going to help you understand who's consuming the time in the SLAs. If you're just looking for handoffs, the metric timeline's awesome, or a related list with metrics. But SLA breakdowns came in on London, and you do have to activate that plugin. So if you were provisioned London or after, it should be on, I believe. But if you were before London, you definitely would need to activate the plugin. But if you search the docs for SLA breakdowns, you would also see that information, just like you'd see the SLAs.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay. Any more questions come in?
Yep, there is one question for Spotlight, actually. If there is a way to use multiple tables in Spotlight group, and the example provided was using case and SLAs at the same time. So since we have Ameya here.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for your question. Unfortunately, no, we do not support multiple tables within a single Spotlight group. So in this case, you would have to create two groups and then use a dashboard with reports and widgets from the Spotlight scores to actually do the yeah.
Well, there's a way to do it. So technically speaking, no, but the way that you achieve this, particularly for SLAs missed and breached, right? I have a Spotlight group on incident on case, and I want to give a lot of points to breached incidents. You create an indicator that is, you create a database view on a case SLA, which should hopefully already exist. Create an indicator on that, and your view table is going to be case. Your indicator is going to be specifically breached, right? Or 50% SLA consumption. You're going to create an indicator where all of the records that you're collecting are what you want to see, right? So it's not one with a breakdown, but actual additional conditions, or most likely additional conditions to say breached cases, right? Or breached SLAs on cases. That database.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, right. So that goes in there, and then it's an indicator source. And whether it does, the Spotlight doesn't care whether you got those sys-IDs from case or from SLA or case SLA, right? And 100 points if you breached, 200,000 points if you are, 150% of SLA.
Okay.
And that should, for those of you who haven't done it, that covers the vast majority of cases. You have to do a little bit of massaging on your indicators, and you're going to build some up, but it works quite well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, and we have 1 minute left for questions. That was the question about SLA indicators. Okay. Well, I think we're going to wrap up for today. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. And as a reminder, we'll post this hopefully later today, if not tomorrow, with everything we have, and we'll try to get you the presentation, get that posted as well. And we are posting some of the PDFs of the presentations that you've seen over the last few months, so you'll see those in the community. Thank you, Amaya, for posting yours about Spotlight. Between now and the next 2 weeks, please leverage the community for any questions you have. We're here every 2 weeks in person, but the community is there 24/7, and we have lots of great customers and partners who are answering questions all the time. So I highly recommend you do that. Include some screenshots, explain what you're trying to do, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you can get some really good advice. Also in the community, you'll find links to available training for performance analytics, especially the new free self-paced performance analytics essentials. I recommend that for everybody involved with performance analytics essentials, or anybody involved with performance analytics at all your power users. It's free training, takes an hour or two. It will help you. So if you haven't taken it, please take it and encourage your user base to use it as well. And also the training that we have with fundamentals and essentials. There was a great article written, posted the last couple days about one of our users who I think is on, Thomas, a member of my team who's used performance analytics for 3 years, knows what he's doing, took the fundamentals class, and still learned something. So if you haven't taken the fundamentals class and you're a PA admin, it's a great investment of your time to really get to understand what's the best practice on how to do some of these things, get familiar with some of the newer features that are there. And that's a 2-day virtual or a 2-day real class. But then again, we have that free self-paced class as well. Lots of resources for you in the community. And again, look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.